Hey, everybody, welcome back to Sergeant's Talk TV. I'm Big Mike.
And I'm Jason.
Hey, guys, tonight we got a good one for you. We're going to be talking about drone warfare. Now, I'm going to tell you right up front, there's going to be some pretty graphic stuff that we're going to be showing you. We got some clips and videos that we want to show you how they're using drones. Unlike when I was in Desert Storm, we had the big Air Force drones flying over and stuff like that. But they're taking in the Ukraine-Russian war, they're taking this. I mean, they're up here. I mean, it is scary. I would not want to be a soldier on the battlefield with, and this is no lie, at a minimum of 10,000 drones in the air on the battlefield on any given day. And it is scary. And right now, the North Koreans are playing heck. They don't even know what to think. They've never seen a drone before. And it's scaring the holy bejesus out of those guys. And a lot of them are surrendering. They're injuring themselves to get off the battlefield. It's crazy, but we're going to show you some videos on the capability of drones and the way wars are changing using drones. So this is going to be a good one. So if you don't like that kind of stuff or whatever, I'm just going to let you know now. There's going to be some blowing up, and there's going to be all kinds of stuff going on the capability of drones and drone warfare. Just thought, since it's so prevalent, and because you got to look at something, these guys are buying drones between $400 and $2,000 drones, right? The ones we buy, and the way they're doing stuff and changing things up on those drones with 3D printers and stuff like that is incredible what they're doing. And I can't get enough of it on those YouTube channels on the Ukraine war. I've been watching them day in and day out for a year or more. And it's scary. It's absolutely scary what a little $1,000 drone can do to a T-90 tank. Those kamikaze drones they use. It's crazy. Yeah. So, yeah.
Just that advancement in technology. From what we remember having.
Yeah.
From having just like visual surveillance type to now they're armored. They're firing and from a distance. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So all right. Give me 1 second. I need to address something. I'll be right back.
Okay. So anyway, guys, it is beyond me. I mean, your mental state when you hear something humming and it's something that in an instant they're up on you. It's like when you're walking through the woods and all of a sudden there's a swarm of bees or hornets on you. That's what these drones are doing to these soldiers. And I mean, there's a lot of the PTSD is high on both sides because of using drones and stuff like that. And it's to me, it's just I'm glad I'm not in that war right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You
know what I'm saying?
Because you can't hear them when they're that high. Like if it was airplanes and stuff that we're used to, you typically, other than some of the, those fighter bombers and stuff that come in, you hear them before they're coming. So you're like, okay, something's coming.
Right.
But those, they're so far up and they're so quiet already that no idea.
Yeah. I mean, they're flying so high up in the air, and they've got these 4D cameras on these drones, like the $2,000 ones, they said, and they're zooming in on you, right? and all of a sudden they just drop out of the sky and stop on a dime, and they're right on top of you, and then click, hand grenade drops or whatever. And the type of weapons, the mortars and all that kind of stuff that they are rigging up releases off these drones with is insane what they're doing. And we're going to show you all that stuff tonight on this. Because one thing that I learned was you'll have a heavy tank division or platoon or whatever going out. And with that, there is a wheeled vehicle that they're sending out with it, and it's got drone operators in it, right? And there's guys that handle the drones, and then they got the drone operators, and they put on their VR mask, whatever that thing is, that VR thing that they wear, and they're watching this thing in real time as they're flying. And then besides that, they got a master drone that flies high with they said the one that this one crew was using was a $10,000 drone that flies up there, and it has a camera, and that's the guy, that's like the platoon sergeant or the platoon leader. He's directing fire where these kamikaze drones need to go to. And then they'll even shoot lasers off that. Boom, they got it. And it blows my mind on what they're doing over there. And one of the things that I learned so far during this war, the Ukrainians have taken out over 9,000 tanks. Okay. 9,000. And that's not even including the armored personnel carriers and all that, and the MRLSs and all that kind of stuff. Those are tanks they're taking out. And I think Putin said that the T-90 tank was the best tank in the world. Guys, they're blowing those things to smithereens with a drone. And it is insane watching whatever they strap to that, and they go straight at it. And what they'll do is from the body where the turret is, they go right in between there with that explosives, and you see the turret going like 100 foot in the air. And you know how heavy a turret is.
Yeah.
On a tank. I'm just going, are you kidding me? So anyway, we're gonna do that. But first, we want to say hello to everybody in the chat, as we do every week. And I think the first person in here was Joe Fix It For You. So how you doing?
Welcome in, brother Joey.
Yep.
And I see Anna Bohr, good enough, came in, but she's gonna watch it. So hi tomorrow, but she's watching it today for her, but tomorrow for us right now. But
yeah. There's Judy Herman.
And I see Neil S. made it in. Glad to see you, brother.
And there's Glenda at Grace and Fire with Glenda. She says she's in here.
It is. And Glenda, I will tell you that is not a term I would ever refer to you, because you are so far from that term.
Yes.
Not even close.
And there is my Sergeant Major. Terry's in here. Empty Homestead. Let's see.
There's neighbor Ricky Smith. Good evening. Hopefully Veterans Landing isn't totally froze over.
Yeah. And there's Ace saying hello.
There's Terry Threet.
Yep. Hello. Let's see. Juan Perez, how you doing?
Welcome in, Juan.
Everybody.
See, Arlene made it in. Hello, Arlene.
Angie. Went to my doctor's appointment today. My hip is healed. That thing, he looked in the x-rays and he says, I see no black lines along the prosthetic or anything like that. The bone has grown onto it. Everything's healed perfectly. And they canceled my 12-week one. And now I have to work with the VA for the knees. Go back and rehash that nightmare to get that approved again. So
gonna be Robo Man.
Yeah.
At this point, with all that metal hardware, you're gonna have to move to like Hawaii or something, because you got to be in a spot that it never gets cold.
Yeah. In fact, right now I feel it in my hips when I go outside. So yeah. Let's see. I got the wrong mouse in my hand.
So Neil's asking question to all in the chat. I have had belly issues since Desert Shield and Storm. Has anyone had testing done for chemical exposure? Well, I can't answer.
I went in for the what was that? The PACT Act, and yeah, because I told them everything that I was around: oil well fires, mixing, burning human waste. Was a rappel master on a Black Hawk and a Chinook, breathing in the JP8 and stuff like that. Solvents and all that stuff. I marked everything that I was around, and all they did was send me in there for a breathing test, which I failed. And they went in there for a skull X-ray, and they said, "No, you don't qualify. You're out. Boom. See ya." No matter if you were in those areas or not. So I said, "Okay." They told me to go check on you. Talk to the guy at the DAV. He set it up for me. But I said, "Well, why does a civilian doctor say because of all that oil that I breathed in that the soft tissue in the back of my throat has no elasticity anymore, which causes my sleep apnea because it all falls down? Not so much just the jaw, but the skin in the back of my throat." And they said, "Oh, that's not what we're testing for, so you don't qualify." So I said, "All right, whatever." So
yeah, it's kind of crazy how some of those. I remember I went in and was trying to do some of the questionnaires for like the burn pit registries and that kind of stuff, and the questions that came on it. I mean, for me, half the stuff I couldn't remember because they wanted like specific dates and names of missions you were on, and I'm like, I was in Afghanistan. Don't and like we did it in Iraq. Like, don't ask me specifics. I was told what to do and I did it. But in the end, it's like, yeah, like I go in and they're like, "Well, you don't have any symptoms of all this stuff," and I'm like, "Yeah, you're right, I don't. But what happens, if I can make it to 80, and I guess maybe they'll cover the treatment."
Yeah. So Judy Herman asked, she said, "With that many drugs in the air, surprised they don't shoot each other down." So what they do is they have these little identifiers. They just peel them off and they stick them on the drone, and the other drone can see them to identify them. It's the same thing as what we do for tanks and stuff like that, so they don't end up in friendly fire. So if you're looking through scopes and stuff like that, especially night vision scopes, they'll light up for you and you know exactly who's who on the battlefield. And plus you have like side markers on tanks and stuff like that during the daytime. And you can see the tank, you can read as big as those emblems are on the sides of the tanks. You might see one with a V, a wide V with a number in the middle or something like that, and they'll identify who they belong to and stuff like that.
Right. Well, I see Bobby over at Pettigene River made it in. Welcome in, brother.
Yeah. Let's see. Hey, there is Dana Mason. Hey, Mike, Jason, Terry, Tara, Stella, and I are lurking. Love your sweet friends.
Hi, Stella.
All right. Yeah, we'll be back in the hospital. Yeah, Terry told me about that. Yeah, our prayers are with Tim. Oh.
Let's see. Trying to see. Oh, well, we got Brother Tony from our cabin in the woods.
Yes, he is. He's here. He was over at my house this last week. I picked up 4 dozen hatching eggs. So good luck with those. It was nice meeting your father-in-law. He's a vet. He's a Marine. So it's good to meet him. Bar Run Forge. Howdy, howdy, howdy.
What's up, brother Troy? Let's see. There's Miss Charlene Grady from up on the Cape.
Yeah. Good to see you. Let's see. I'm still scrolling.
Yeah. Well, there's Bobby's talking about, yeah, he feels the cold in his right ankle. Titanium and bone doesn't expand and contract the same. It sucks.
Yeah. Hey, Rona. How are you doing? She's in here from the Philippines. MC Nimis on Amazon Music. Yes. And we got him down in the basement, and we'll bring you up shortly. And if anybody wants to come up on panel and talk about this with us, the link is at the top. You can click on that, follow the directions, come up into the basement, and we will bring you up to be part of this night about drone warfare. Okay, so let's bring our first guest up. You want to bring him up?
Absolutely. Oh, nope.
Oh, there you go. Anyway, all right, so here's what we have planned. I'm going to show you this first video. It's called Are Drones Winning or Losing the War in the Ukraine? Okay, so hopefully I can do what Terry told me to do. I think she said present and share screen.
Yes, Troy, it was good meeting you too, brother. Hopefully some more meetups. We can hang out some more.
All right, here's the first one we want to look at.
What we're looking at here is Ukraine's Aeroscout unit showing off the grenade-dropping drones they use to attack Russian troops in Donetsk Oblast. These aircraft are often heralded as the future of warfare, and watching videos of blowing up troops, tanks, and armored vehicles with ease, it isn't hard to see why. But the reality on the ground is far more complicated than the social media posts imply. We're going to break down how these drones work, examine this tape, and speak to the man who helped record it to find out what's really going on. There's no single model for a grenade-dropping drone, but broadly speaking, they break down into 2 categories. There are small drones that carry a single grenade, and heavy drones that carry much larger or multiple warheads. Let's start by looking at the smaller ones. These tend to be quadcopters, like the Chinese-made Mavic. They have 4 fold-out arms with a propeller at the end of each, hence the name, which makes them very agile and fast, with top speeds of 40 miles an hour. There's the main body, which contains the battery pack, allowing them to fly up to 15 miles, but a second battery is sometimes added on top to increase their range to 30 miles. They cost about $2,000 and are readily available online, making them cheap compared to other long-range weapons and easy to get hold of. These drones are fitted with a carrying cradle underneath, which the Ukrainians make themselves. This holds the bombs they will drop on the Russian. These bombs tend to be grenades, which have been specially adapted with 3D printed parts like tail fins and nose fuses, so they fall straight downwards. Because the grenades are small, their main targets are Russian troops. But if the pilot gets lucky, then they can burn an armored vehicle or a tank by dropping them through an open roof hatch and setting light to the fuel or ammo inside. If we look at the tape, we can see what that looks like in reality. Here's the Aeroscouts inside a cottage they've repurposed as a headquarters on the southern Donetsk front, near the town of Marianka, before it was captured by Russia. They're showing off a Chinese-made Mavic 3, a commercial drone usually used for filming things like weddings, which they've repurposed for these missions. Here's the 3D printed carrying cradle they attach to the underside to carry the bombs, and here is one of the bombs. a grenade typically used in a rifle-mounted launcher that they've adapted with a 3D printed tail fin. This is a Mark I American hand grenade that has also been adapted with an X-shaped piece of plastic, which replaces the pin. It snaps when it hits the ground and activates the grenade. This is how it fits into the carrying cradle, and how the cradle drops it. And this is another rifle grenade, fitted into a slightly different housing, also 3D printed. Here we can see the Aero Scouts setting up for a mission, but we're going to pause right there and take a look at how these drones are used first. The Aero Scouts are a dedicated drone unit. This means they're not deployed on the front line, but a few miles behind it. When a Ukrainian unit on the front line comes under attack, they'll request fire support. This usually involves artillery, but also grenade-dropping drones. The Aero Scouts get a call to help and head to a particular sector with their drones. They'll drive to a forward position, a pre-prepared trench or dugout, where they'll set up their drone and get it into the air. Then, using live video feeds from surveillance drones hovering over the battlefield and electronic maps, they'll start hunting down and taking out their targets. Because the bombs they're dropping are small, they're mostly used against infantry. The grenades will cause casualties, but the presence of drones is also helpful in forcing Russian formations to disperse. This makes attacking much harder, because a successful assault is all about concentrating power in one place. With drones in the air, this becomes very dangerous to do. If the drone pilot gets lucky, they may find an abandoned vehicle on the battlefield with its top hatches left open. In the hands of a skilled pilot, a grenade dropped through the hatch could set light to the fuel or ammo inside a tank or armored vehicle and destroy it completely. Once the mission is complete, the drone returns to its handler where it can be fitted with another explosive and head out into the field again. If we come back to the tape and hit play, we can see that in action. Here, the Aero Scouts are setting up their drone, flipping out the arms and the propellers. This soldier is fitting a grenade into the carrying cradle, and if you look here, you can see a trigger he's going to fit to the nose, which will set it off when it hits the ground. The Mavic is small enough to be launched by hand, which is what's happening here. And here's a clearer look at one of those nose-mounted triggers being fitted. This grenade comes with a special message for the enemy.
Our present for Russian.
Now, let's take a look at the larger drones. This is a Vampire, a purpose-built Ukrainian drone which is many times the size of the Mavic we just saw. It's a hexacopter because it has 6 arms and propellers instead of 4. In the middle are antennas. We're not 100% sure, but we think this one boosts the signal of other nearby drones, and this one controls the Vampire itself. On the legs are 2 large battery packs. This makes it slower and less agile than the Mavic, but means it can carry a much heavier payload, up to 33 pounds, and transport it up to 14 miles. It is also fitted with a thermal camera because the Vampire carries out most of its missions in the dead of night. That's because the 6 rotors make it very loud, so it's easy to spot and shoot down during the day. All this extra equipment costs more, upwards of $80,000, so it is not as expendable as the smaller drones. But it can attack a wider variety of targets. It is powerful enough to carry and drop repurposed mortar shells, even anti-tank mines. That's useful, not just against troops, but against hardened targets like bunkers, trenches, and tanks. The Russians fear this drone so much, they've nicknamed it Baba Yaga, a witch in Slavic folklore who flies about in the night, carrying off and eating children. Here's another clip of the Aero Scouts setting up a Vampire to use on a combat mission. You can see just how much larger it is than a Mavic. There's no question of this thing being launched by hand. Down here, you can see hard points where 4 bombs can be attached. And here is the devastation caused during a raid by one of these drones. It's easy to see why the Russians find them so terrifying. What I've got here is a tape of attacks by the smaller drones, so you can see the difference between the two. Here, you can see a drone hovering over Russian positions on the front line. You can see the grenade the drone is going to drop creeping into the frame here. Once the pilot has picked their target, they let the bomb go, and you can see it exploding here. Obviously, that's nowhere near the size of the explosion caused by the Vampire. And here, you can see what happens if the pilot manages to get a grenade through the open hatch of a tank. The initial explosion is small, but pretty soon the tank has set ablaze, which will put it out of action as if it had been hit by an anti-tank rocket for a fraction of the cost. Drones in war are nothing new. They were a constant and controversial part of America's wars in the Middle East going back 2 decades. Back then, the trend was for big and expensive drones because Al-Qaeda and ISIS didn't have any jets or air defenses to shoot them down with. Ukraine has reversed that trend. Now, drones are cheap and expendable. They have to be, because the skies over Ukraine are so contested that anything big would be shot down almost immediately. These smaller drones do still get shot down all the time. Their average number of flights is about 4, but they are easily replaceable. Because they're cheap and easy to get, they're everywhere on the battlefield. Up to 10,000 of them are in the air at any one time. It's hardly surprising, therefore, there are millions of videos of them on apps like Telegram and Twitter. Watching all this footage, it's easy to get the impression that drones are unstoppable killers, hunting down troops and tanks unimpeded. But that's a false impression. For obvious reasons, the Ukrainians don't show off their failures, only their successes. And the most common outcome of a drone mission is failure. For every 1 hit, 8 or 9 drones may have fallen short, running out of battery en route, brought down by gunfire, or forced off target by jammers. Even when the drones do reach their objectives, there is no guarantee they'll actually hit them, especially if the pilot is a rookie. Dropping a grenade precisely on a moving target from hundreds of feet in the air is no mean feat, especially in high winds or bad weather. For that reason, even the Ukrainians, pioneers of this new way of warfare, don't rely on drones alone to get the job done. Artillery is still thought to kill more soldiers on both sides than these new weapons, and Kyiv is constantly asking its allies in the West for more anti-tank rockets. That has raised questions about whether these really are the game changers they appear to be. We sat down with the journalist who filmed this footage and who himself has survived drone attacks.
Okay, I did something wrong here. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. So, hey, I'm going to tell you something. That all by itself is scary, okay? Because when we send money and stuff like that over there, they are buying up as much as they can. There's some countries that are sending them airplane loads of drones out of their countries as far as equipment and stuff like that, because these guys are perfecting drone warfare. Okay. And to think that, you've got your little YouTube drone flying around and stuff like that. And these guys are dropping stuff through the hatch of a tank and blowing them up and stuff like that. And then you see the big explosion. The big explosions aren't really the grenade that goes in there. It's when it blows up and it mixes with fuel and oil and stuff like that, and then it hits the mother load inside the tank, which is all the rounds that it carries. That's the explosion, and that's what they want to get at.
And all those secondaries that create. I mean, I think that, I think back to, and obviously we weren't using drones, at least at my level, when we went to Iraq the first time, but all them cook-offs of the secondary ammo that's inside the vehicle that got blown up, and you're driving by it in a non-armored vehicle, and there's no way to control where those projectiles are going. So it's, I think honestly that was probably the most dangerous part of it.
Yeah.
Was all the secondary stuff that's going off. Like the initial explosion was enough, but then the secondary stuff, and the fact that they're doing it, with drones that anybody can buy off the market, and 3D printers that anybody can buy off the market. Like that's almost the scary part for me. Like the drones are impressive, and the abilities to do that, but then the technology that they're using with these 3D printers to modify some of them, because now you don't even know. And I know that's been a big thing lately, or around a lot of places, was people talking about drones.
Yeah.
And if they're high enough, they're hard to see or hear. But if you can, it's like trying to find a little bird flying in the air. All of a sudden, you're good until you look away for a second, come back, and then you never find it again.
Yeah. Hey, we got Glenn and Shannon Salty Life in here now. We got Merns Pacquiao. She came in. Good to see you, my friend.
I see Dawn.
Yeah.
My sister Marine came in there.
That's right.
Sounds like she's making a pretty delicious dinner over there.
She is. I did see
Brother Anson from Ivy's Family Factotum made it in.
Yeah, Bobby at Petty Jean River Homestead. There's Ivy's Family Factotum. I think you just said that, didn't you?
I did, but you made it sound much gooder than me, so I like it.
Yeah, Glenn said, 10,000 drones at any one time in the air. That's a hornet's nest all by itself.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot. If you go to your channel page and you hit the home up there and you list up there, just put that, just type in Ukraine more, and you can see if you're into watching what they're doing over there. And yeah, they only film and put out the successful missions and stuff like that. But man, what they're blowing up, when you look at, I mean, it's not all drones that took out 9,000 Russian tanks, from T-55, 62, 72s, 80s, and 90s. And then the Russians, it said the Russians have over 10,000 tanks in storage, but the problem is they don't have any qualified crews for them. You see what I'm saying? When you take out that many tanks and APCs and stuff like that, they have your qualified crews in there, right? Well, these people aren't just flocking over there in Russia to join. Now, they do have a mandatory service requirement in Russia, and Terry was looking that up. In fact, they said they're getting so desperate that they're sending these guys into these clubs and stuff like that, and they're locking the club down. And if you're of service age, they're taking you out of there against your will.
Oh wow!
You didn't sign up, or you're avoiding and stuff like that. The draft and all that kind of stuff, or whatever they got going on over there. Call them conscripts, or that's what they call them. And so stuff like that. So one country of Ukraine is, I mean, it's putting a hurting on Russia. That's supposed to be this quote unquote dominating army in the world. And they can't even run over one small country like that, and all they were fighting with was what Russia left behind when everybody, broke off from the Russia and stuff like that back in the day. So I'm just telling you guys, I guess that's why he's always threatening with the nuke button and stuff like that, because, that's all you got.
yeah. If you don't have the personnel that can run you can have all the equipment in the world, but if you don't have the personnel that can run it on the ground, and I think that's the, with those smaller drones they talked about, and I think with both of them in there, the range on those is the personnel have to still be fairly close.
Yeah.
But they did that one clip where, they were showing the big ones that are like the size of a normal plane. Those are remote from, like, our guys are operating them from the States overseas.
Well, the vampire drone, they call it, those are actually agricultural drones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think
they go and they
the
fly
ones
over
that I've seen
spray them.
Weren't they the ones though too that they were trying to, that looked like the one that I'd seen before where they were trying to use it as Amazon delivery?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And I mean,
stuff like that.
Even like the guy said that Mavic that was in there, I mean, that's that's the YouTuber dream drone right there
Yeah.
of being able to get the Mavics because they are easy to operate.
Right.
And they do a great job, and they have more flight time and stuff. So,
but I'm just amazed by what the ingenuity of these guys are to attach another battery, wire the wiring harness so they both work in conjunction to give them longer life and stuff like that when they're flying and things like that. Well, I mean, you got to remember something. You put another battery on there, that's less weight you can carry with it because it infringes on the total weight of the drone. So, yeah. Hey, I seen Julie Cook in here. How you doing, Julie?
We got Debbie Drock made it in.
Yep. Debbie Drock. See, yeah, Ivy's saying, yeah, it would be hard to stop 1,000 drones, 10,000 drones if they were all flying together as a swarm. Yeah. I mean, there's some video of some crazy people running around in the open, mainly the North Koreans, because I don't know how they taught these guys. Their training is more like hand-to-hand combat and stuff like that, because you will see them out there. I mean, they're running around like chickens with their heads cut off out there and stuff like that. And they're on one video is saying the guys, these military experts were trying to understand what are they trying to do here? Because there's no military, nothing on their maneuver techniques and stuff like that.
That's a scatter.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Annabor says the whole drone thing reminds me of a movie that was on the West Coast. All the walls came down and the drones were being policing the areas and stuff like that. Yeah. So I watched the video. Instead of sending, private Joe Schmuckinelli, they go, run across here and check out those foxholes and stuff like that. Now you can just send a drone in there and you lost a drone, but you didn't lose a person. You take a kamikaze drone and you fly it in there because you see a bunker, a dugout bunker, a fighting position or whatever, and you just send it straight in there and blow it to smithereens and everybody inside of it and stuff like that. You don't have to put your men or your women in harm's way when you could just throw a drone in the hole, one of those $400 to $500 ones that they do use over there for kamikaze drones.
Of course, and Anson's talking here. Plus, if they're computer driven with AI, it could be scary. I mean, because they all have some sort of technology involved in them. So,
I think that Julie Cook said her boys are of draft age. If there was a draft, I don't see a draft ever coming. But over in Russia, what was it, 17 to 30 now? Yeah, they moved it from 17 to 27. Now they've moved it up to 30. So now they're going after a different demographic after 27 and putting them back in the military or getting them in there if they missed it. So you may have served at 17 and did your year, but now if you're in that thing, they're scarfing you up again and they're putting you out there in the war zone.
Yeah, I mean, if you think back to when we had the draft, going into World War type situations and those larger battles, campaign battles and stuff, and that's kind of what they're in right now, where they have all the equipment, they don't have the personnel, and it is a scary thing to think about. Of are they going to start forcing people, because no matter what, they're trying to save their country. I mean, we look at it and we're like, hey, it's a bad country, or, you know,
Yeah.
if you enjoy the country, however it is, you know, what their thought process is. But to them, it's the same as what we would, you know, defending our own country. It's like, hey, we need to do everything we possibly can to, you know, maintain our way of life.
Right. Yeah. And I just found out that all these other countries are Britain and Germany and United States. I mean, that we're putting like their pilots and their tankers and all their stuff through training. They just delivered 5 F-16s to the Ukraine. They went through 6 months of F-16 school. Now these are prior pilots, but they were flying Soviet-made Su aircraft and stuff like that. And now they took those pilots and sent them over for F-16 training, and they did it all in 6 months. Well, they came over there and they went on a mission, and their top colonel got shot down. I mean, lost the F-16 right off the get-go. And then another one got shot down. So now they're down to 3, but they're supposed to be getting something like 84 of them. And they still got people in school going fast tracking through it, but they had to have they had to be a combat pilot before they went over there and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, Germany's giving them Tornadoes and all kinds of aircraft. The Brits are doing it. The French are doing it because they're used to flying the Sus and the MiGs and stuff like that, but they're learning quick and stuff like that. But there is a learning curve on a new aircraft, and you go from training straight into combat and not getting like the flight hours that our pilots are getting before they ever go into combat. It's kind of devastating. I mean, that's a loss. But going back to the drones, you know, you take a $2,000 drone and you blow up, you know, $1 million, a $15 million, whatever piece of equipment and stuff like that. I mean, the cost is worth the reward. You know, if you can blow up a T-90 tank with a $2,000 drone, you know, big plus for you, you know, and you're going to see on this next, I think it's the next video that we're going to do, show you just exactly the cost. I don't know if it's the next one, but I don't have my notes up because I don't know what I did. So, okay, let's do this one.
Oh, Big Mike over there pushing buttons, y'all. Watch out.
Share screen. All right, I wanted to show you this drone, this video here too.
Ukraine has done something unbelievable with its ground drones. In this video, we explore how Ukraine is using these new tools to devastate Russian forces, as well as the impact that unmanned ground vehicles, or UGVs, could have on the war. First, we head to Vovchansk. An ancient city first settled under the Tsardom of Russia in 1674, Vovchansk is part of the Kharkiv region. Before the war began, it had a population of 17,459. Now that population is about 300. The reason is that Vovchansk has been a key Russian target during its offensive in Kyiv. What was once a small, though vibrant city has been reduced to rubble by constant bombardments of Russian artillery and bombs. Yet it's also in Vovchansk that Ukraine has unleashed a weapon unlike anything that Russia has ever seen. In May 2024, Russia launched a new ground offensive targeting the city of Kharkiv. It advanced quickly, taking several small border villages before arriving in Vovchansk. The small city is only 25 miles away from Kharkiv and serves as perhaps the biggest barrier to the true Russian target. It was in Vovchansk that Ukraine's forces fortified and stood their ground. The 82nd Air Assault Brigade, along with several other Ukrainian brigades, arrived to halt the Russian soldiers. Weeks of hard fighting ensued. By the end, Ukraine had pushed Russia's soldiers to the Vovcha River that runs through Vovchansk. Russia rallied. It took the PJSC Volchansk.
Sorry about that.
The missiles it needs to strike fortified positions. Through a combination of guile, ingenuity, and superior tactics, Ukraine now has a weapon that can cause severe damage wherever it's deployed. It's opened up a new frontier in the Ukraine war, and the craziest thing about this amazing strike is that it's far from the first instance of Ukraine using ground-based drones against Russia. There are many more. While the attack on Vovchansk chemical plant may be the most impressive example of Ukraine using the combination of RC cars and bombs to wreak havoc on Russia, the tactic was merely an explosive extension of a concept Ukraine has used for well over a year. In July 2023, Reuters reported on the developers of new ground-based drones. Scattered throughout the country, Ukrainian engineers have been developing variations of these drones, many using salvaged parts. One of these engineers is 22-year-old Yevhen Natok. His design is a small, almost undetectable, green machine that runs on tracks. It would look like a small model tank, were it not for the fact that it has a landmine strapped to its back. Where the jerry-rigged ground drone used in Vovchansk took advantage of tree cover to reach a Russian position, Natok's drone is far more difficult to spot. Some long grass is all it needs to make its way to a Russian position. Once the drone gets in close, it's all over. If they see it at this distance, they won't even have time to pray, Natok told Reuters when speaking about his drone. And he's not stopping at mines. Natok has created ground drones of various sizes and capabilities. The smallest can be packed with explosives or have mines strapped to them. However, he's also built drones capable of carrying remote-controlled machine guns up to 6 miles away from the drone's operator. In July 2023, he was also working on a much larger variation of his drone that will be capable of carrying a 20mm cannon capable of firing rounds that can penetrate tank armor. Russia has already lost over 8,000 tanks in the war. The arrival of tiny vehicles those tanks can't properly see or target could be devastating for Putin's forces. Imagine a small fleet of drones carrying 20mm cannons, blasting holes in tanks, while even smaller drones lurk in the long grass, waiting to explode as a Russian battalion is thrown into chaos. That's the potential that these ground drones present: devastating firepower and explosive force, all used by Ukrainian troops that are literally miles away from the fighting. The Sun provides more insight into Natok's innovative drone on its YouTube channel. The footage shows another variation of the machine, this time with chunky wheels, moving through a field. It's about the size of a large RC car with a camouflaged mine strapped to the top. The footage switches to a first-person view, demonstrating that there's a small camera built into the drone that allows the operator to track and control its movements. Natok firmly believes his drones are game changers. I will tell you this, if we had these kinds of drones at the beginning of the full-scale war, the Russians would have been met on every road, he tells The Sun. Convoys wouldn't have stood a chance, he says. The drones would have been stationed in every tree line, out of the sight of invading Russian troops, until their tanks and armored vehicles drew near, then an attack. The drones would pour out en masse and detonate, leaving behind them a wreckage of tanks, armored vehicles, and the unfortunate Russian soldiers caught in their wake. It's difficult to argue with Natok's point. The drones he's created are difficult to spot, but even if they're noticed, they're small and fast enough to evade rifle fire. That only makes them more terrifying for Russian soldiers. Imagine seeing what looks like an RC car hurtling towards your position. It takes your brain a moment to figure out what this quickly moving little car is, and a moment longer to identify that it's carrying an explosive. In the seconds it takes you to aim and fire your rifle, the drone has closed the distance and is almost at your position. Even a direct hit will result in a devastating explosion, but you have to fire. If you don't, the car is just going to reach you and explode anyway. If that isn't worrying enough for Russia, Natok isn't the only engineer working on new ways to use drones to attack Russian positions. He is just one of many engineers coming up with new concepts to counter Putin's use of tank and trench-based warfare.
All right. Now, I mean, what can you say? I mean, we have like mine detectors that are remote control and stuff like that. But these guys, I mean, everybody is, it's all hands on deck. And a 22-year-old kid coming up with these things for their military and stuff like that. And now Russia has, besides all that, the ground ones, they're making bombs out of the RC boats that they're using down in Crimea and stuff like that, attacking warships and stuff like bridges and things like that, taking those out with RC boats. And then some of them are like, 3 and 4 foot long, and they're coming up with all this stuff just to win this war. So, and that's my whole point, is the ingenuity that they're putting into this to fight with whatever they can put together or whatever they can develop and stuff like that, besides what everybody's sending over there. What does the average Russian soldier have to fight for. Okay, you invaded another country. Your guys are dying hand over fist by one smaller country. And, the people are in an uproar in Russia. They're absolutely in an uproar. And so what do you got to fight for? If there's nothing inside those guys to fight, because they're surrendering by the hundreds. I mean, their POW camps are filling up fast over in the Ukraine. They just did 150 person exchange for soldiers just, not too long ago. And they've got more and more and more. Ukraine's got more than what Russia has to exchange with. So, and what they're trying to do is say, hey, this is our country. You invaded us. 2014, you went down to Crimea and took over that whole port city of ours. All the Ukrainians left and all the Russians moved in there, down on the Black Sea and stuff like that. So, if you don't have nothing to fight for, where's your get up and go?
Yeah. Well, and the fact that they're able to come up with, the technologies that they're developing, because of this, the war and everything that they've got going on over there, the advancement in technologies of people just being, these engineering things that can make it easier. And I'd seen a comment that Anson was talking about where men and women are the most expensive asset to any military. Never hurts as bad as monetarily to lose a drone or three.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Ukraine's looking at things is, hey, if we can spend a few $1,000s but we're going to save dozens of lives of not sending them face to face. And if Russia doesn't have any counterbalance to that, to be like, well, what are we going to do now? Because some of the comments with the drones flying in the air, where a lot of them are so small or they can fly lower to where they're not even picked up on radar.
Right.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Cuddly Texan, oh, Patrick made it in.
Yeah, Hercules is in here. Dean P's in here. Yeah, I think that what they were saying is they don't have the ability to be on the same, because each one of them have a signature, whatever they're operating on. I'm not a big drone guy, but they do have, the Russians have been moving up these magnetic interceptors that'll send out a wave, but in one video it shows them just dropping out of the sky and blowing up. But now they're doing something to the drones to remove that. And I mean, they're coming up with all kinds of creative ways to keep their drones in the skies. Yeah.
And the crazy part is, I mean, I get that they're using these technologies and these advancements because they're in a war. It's for survival on them.
Yeah.
But, because war isn't ever good, how could this effort be turned into something that could be beneficial?
Right.
That's the part that, how much of this stuff and these technologies that are out there and available, we can fly something or control a device from, clear across the world. And I know we talked about it a little bit beforehand, but, I think about these technologies that are going on, yet I can't drive in a valley and maintain a phone call. And I get it. They're the military is to keep higher technologies and run off different services and that kind of stuff. But
yeah,
when we have certain technologies that we use, to a military advantage all over the world, right? Every military has something that the military is going to have the advantage in the technology department. Yet us regular people, all we care about is, why is my cell phone in SOS mode?
Yeah. Yeah, Terry needs to be operating this computer, not me. That's why I can't play video games or fly drones.
Right.
All right, so let's go to this next one.
I'm gonna say hi real quick, Joe. You
Okay.
cue that up. I know it'll take you a minute. I see Tamara and David made it in from Heartland HQ.
Yeah.
As did we just buy Greenland? I don't know anything about that, but whatever you're trying to watch, you're the only one watching it, brother. You didn't share it. I seen you do that. Sit back and relax. I'm in theater mode, and I'm like, that's great.
Oh my gosh. Okay, present, share screen. This one, share.
Rewind it.
Yeah. I'm
and
tore
deliver
from
their
the
payloads
floor up.
effectively. But the war in Ukraine is being fought on a very different scale and thus requires a different type of drone. Enter the DJI Mavic, a series of commercial drones from China. These drones weren't designed for industry or wartime. They were meant to be simple and cost-effective cameras in the sky, with the ability to live stream a video feed to an accompanying device. They were designed for commercial purposes, to take photos and shoot videos for parties or advertisements. However, it quickly became clear that these small drones could be veritable powerhouses on the battlefield in Ukraine. These small quadcopter drones could be used to gather valuable information on enemy movements and formations. This is due to their being relatively silent, particularly compared to large aircraft or land vehicles. They're also maneuverable and, perhaps most importantly, cheap and abundant. Even some of the most sophisticated DJI Mavic models generally cost less than $2,000. This is an outrageously low price for military-grade equipment, especially considering the drone's versatility. So the Ukrainians started using the drone for more than just gathering intel. And that's how we arrived at the situation today, where drones are dropping anti-tank mines or grenades behind enemy lines. The construction of this deadly mechanism is relatively simple. It starts with the basic quadcopter drone, which is outfitted with a grappling system, typically custom-made or 3D printed to be as light as possible. The grappling system is designed to be released remotely by the drone operator, dropping its payload when the drone hovers over the target. Alternatively, the drone is outfitted with a latch that unhooks to release the ordnance when needed. A larger drone can also fit a tray made from a grill, such as those found in ovens, taped or strapped to the drone on one side and latched to the other. The mines lay flat on the grill. When the operator is ready to deploy the mine, they send a signal to unlatch the grill from the drone. In theory, the mine could fall flat onto the ground, provided that it's been dropped from a low height. But the DJI Mavic is a relatively small drone, incapable of hauling dozens of pounds of equipment, like an anti-tank mine. For this purpose, the Ukrainians have started domestic drone production using imported resources. The most common drone of this type is the so-called Vampire or Baba Yaga. This drone is based on another DJI design, the agricultural Agras T-line. Agras is a series of larger quadcopter drones, with the most recent models capable of carrying farming and fertilizing equipment weighing as much as 110 pounds. But considering the scale of the ordnance that Ukraine is working with, slightly older designs that can carry 50 to 100 pounds of equipment are perfectly suitable. The Ukrainians have adapted the base Agras chassis, or reverse engineered the drones to fit 6 or 8 propellers. To improve their operational range to a couple of dozen miles, the Ukrainian drone designs add extra battery packs to the side of the drone and attach extra antennas to boost the drone's signal and allow multiple drones to combine their signals and data streams. The added gear has made the heavy drones slower and much less maneuverable than the base DJI Mavic. It also reduces the drone's maximum payload, with some specifications suggesting a limit of roughly 40 pounds. However, these drones can now carry modified TM62 mines or a host of other ordnance, such as grenades, mortar shells, or repurposed parts of anti-tank missiles. Additionally, the costs of making these drones are still significantly lower than dedicated seek and destroy military drones like the aforementioned MQ-9 Reaper. Plus, these drones have a vastly improved operational ceiling, able to hover at an altitude of 1,300 feet. So that's the drone covered. But what about the mine itself? Based on different images and videos circulating on social media, there are a few different mine designs in active use. Initial images showed mines with minimal modifications being held by drones, intending to be delivered directly onto the target. This is the most basic solution, but it's not that effective, as the mine's inertia and considerable weight can cause it to steer off target, especially if the drone is being deployed high above the ground. So the Ukrainians started modifying the mines. The most common modification adds a tail, so to speak, to one end of the mine in order to stabilize it. Typically, the tail is made from a PVC pipe with a piece of sawed-off plastic bottle at the end to mimic fans. This tail stabilizer causes the mine to fall roughly straight down and orient itself so that the modified fuse is typically the part that hits the ground first. The mine's fuse, which is traditionally a pressure plate designed to set off the mine at weights of between 330 and 1,100 pounds, can be replaced with an assortment of different fuses. For the drone's purposes, the most effective fuse detects changes in air pressure or impact, which detonate the mine when it reaches the ground. Alternatively, some videos indicate that these fuses have been replaced with traditional detonation fuses. This is supported by the fact that mines appear to have smoke rising from them as they fall, indicating that the fuse has been lit long before impact. This range of modifications, combined with multiple drone delivery systems, has allowed Ukraine to constantly stay one step ahead of Russia. If one type of system seems to have been solved by the enemy, the next drone can use a different fuse to change up the tactics and cause more confusion. This has been noted to be a particularly effective strategy in the ongoing war, in part because the Russian military has a stricter order and command structure than Ukraine's. Most Western strategists...
Okay. So I wanted to show you that one. What's that?
Scroll to the bottom of your chat.
Oh, okay. Well, but I'm going to tell you something. They're taking, like we said earlier, they're taking the ag drones and stuff like that and modifying. Now, who would come up with, you're taking a anti-tank mine and some guy says, hey, let's stick a PVC pipe down the backside of it, you know, and we'll use it like that. And my whole point on this is when your country is not, I don't want to say like our country, where we spend billions of dollars in research and development, R&D and stuff like that before it comes up, and you got to test it. And you got to do. These guys are doing this off the fly with a drone, a 3D printer, and some construction material.
Redneck ingenuity.
Redneck ingenuity. And
You know, and that's something that I've talked about for a long time, right? Was, you know, probably one of the worst experiences I had while I was in the Marine Corps was them sending me up to work with a concept vehicle and the engineers that designed it.
yeah,
Because those engineers, like, albeit good for them, they went to college, they became engineers, they can design things, they can build it. But if you designed and built it and yet you can't tell me how it works, what good is it? Like that was probably one of the most aggravating things, was they wanted me to go up and look at this vehicle and go over it as a maintainer. And my first questions, amazingly, over a 2-week time, my only question, and they still never gave me an answer, was, well, how does it work? How does it work? How does it work? And they're like, well, it just works. No, we're not playing the magic curtain game. Like,
right.
I need to know how it works if I'm going to be able to fix it.
Right.
And, you know, it's one of those things that things get so over-engineered when it literally takes some plastic PVC, you know, like we make fun a lot, right? Or, you know, people make light of, oh, you know, this guy can MacGyver anything. But that's way more handy than some degree or all this testing and everything else, because it's obviously working.
Yeah.
Why focus on doing testing and development and all this other stuff, you know, because we've self-implemented as our nation, self-implemented us on all these regulations as to where these Ukrainians are showing it that, hey, you give us a little bit of time and a slight bit of a technology, because they're using like a 3D printer, and they're like, hey, we know what it needs to do, just make it do it.
Right.
And they get a guy that can run the 3D printer, and boom, there you go. You've made things that need to happen and are, you know, making major improvements for them.
Right. Okay, so this last video I want to show before, and I'm going to do it right this time.
Wow. Well,
we'll see, right?
I just want to know, I'm reading through some of the comments and I see it, but there might be some random drone footage of Tony at our cabin in the woods out on the interweb somewhere. Just saying, that might be a good time.
All right, so I think this is the video where it puts it all together. Share screen. Hit this
And
one.
thank you that were commenting on the Greenland thing. I don't know anything about it. I don't watch news, guys. So, just seeing what's out there.
This is the result.
Oh, let me hide this. There we go.
Destroyed by the fire. The APC evaporates. This Usmc was in a hurry to get back to its position. A Ukrainian drone catches up with it. This APC heads confidently into the assault. It's covered in protection grids and camouflage nets. It turns around, and a drone dives straight into its front. Nothing remains. Another APC approaches from the other direction. It manages to dodge artillery fire. Even a mine doesn't stop it. But when a Ukrainian operator directs a drone towards it, the following happens. A massive explosion. Thousands of fragments scatter hundreds of meters. It's probable that Russian soldiers have seen what happened to the APCs moving ahead and just decided to run away. The drone approaches its target, and another explosion. Were they transporting explosives? Now it's the Russian tank's turn. The mine roller helps it make it halfway across the field. But here comes the drone. The drone knocks out the navigation system, and the crew escapes from the tank. It only takes one more step. Another drone attacks, setting it ablaze. While driving through another destroyed village, the Russian tank isn't ready for what happens next. The video shows the drone hitting the tank. Ukrainians assess the results of the strike. The tank has been blown to pieces. Its massive turret lies nearby on the ground. Having witnessed this scene, the Russians abandon the second tank. And quite rightfully so. The Ukrainian drone instantly hovers above. The operator chooses the tank's most vulnerable spot. And this is the result. Another turret blown sky high. This tank didn't even manage to fire before it hit a minefield. Ukrainian drones finish off the abandoned junk. A Russian T-80 heads out on a mission. A Ukrainian drone is already in the air, tracking its target. The tank has its name written on the turret. The kamikaze drone hits between the turret and the hull. The charge pierces the armor and reaches the ammo. The tank is blown apart. The assault is over. Nothing can help this APC anymore. For a second, we see the Ukrainian drone. The APC bursts like a soap bubble. Two APCs are storming a Ukrainian settlement. One of them covers the other, continuously firing at the Ukrainian soldiers. Drones come to rescue. The second Russian APC loses support, but keeps attacking. Cluster munitions explode nearby. The APC hits mines and stops. The second Ukrainian drone already hovers overhead. It attacks the target. The APC is engulfed in flames. The fire makes the ammunition detonate quite quickly, and then a massive explosion. The APC evaporates, leaving only scorched earth behind. Reinforcements are on the way, along with a Ukrainian drone. The APC stops as soon as it's hit. A perfect target for another strike. The APC that was hit at the very start of this crazy assault. Now, all of them are destroyed. Russian soldiers abandoned their APCs after another failed assault. They were right to do this. This APC wouldn't protect them anyway. Take a look at this example. A Ukrainian drone drops a grenade right inside. Fuel, oil, and ammo catch on fire. The temperature gets too high. The tin can is opened. The same thing happens with the... A grenade explodes inside, causing a major fire. Which leads to a massive explosion. Chassis, turret, body parts, everything is scattered for hundreds of meters. Shrapnel even damages a nearby abandoned tank. Did this tank have any chance? Covered in reactive armor with an EW system on top. Yet it hits the mines and was abandoned by the crew. A grenade explosion and another fire. The heat traps ignite and explode, creating a spectacular view. This tank is destroyed by the fire. Russian tanks rely on various support systems during assaults. Take the UR-77 Meteorite, for example. This engineering vehicle is used to clear paths through minefields. It uses explosive charges for this purpose. It carries only 2 charges, each weighing 725 kilograms. A Ukrainian drone hits the UR-77. A fire starts and reaches the charges. This leads to a massive explosion. To cover their tanks, Russians often use Usmc systems. Their thermobaric munitions are incredibly powerful. This is a crucial high-priority target on the battlefield. A kamikaze drone hits one of these systems. This Usmc was in a hurry to get back to its position. A Ukrainian drone catches up with it. $15 million disappear in a flash. The BM-21 Grad has just fired at AFU positions. The Russians reload it and drive to new coordinates for the next strike. The Ukrainians send a drone to disrupt the attack. Perfect timing. And here is the Nona self-propelled mortar. A good weapon to support assault troops. An artillery duel begins. AFU artillery makes a shot. A perfect hit. And here are 2 Nonas at once. The Russians are actively firing on Ukrainian fortifications, but not for long. A HIMARS launches some missiles. The missiles perfectly hit both SPGs. The next target could be worth up to $650 million. The Buck SAM system is extremely vulnerable because of its exposed missiles. Anyways, they always detonate in a spectacular way. The SSU located one and sent the coordinates to the HIMARS crew. The missiles are launched. The American beast doesn't give it a chance. 2 Russian SAM systems are here to intercept air targets. The Ukrainians launch precise HIMARS strikes. Both systems and the engineering vehicle are completely destroyed. 6 SAM systems in one video. Let's start with these 2. A precise HIMARS strike destroys the launcher. Then, the same thing happens again. First explosion. And then the second. The SAMs are now on fire. But do you think this will affect the Russians? Absolutely not. Another 2 SAMs gone. If these are basic Buck M1s, Russian losses here alone add up to $1 billion.
All right, dude. And I'm going to tell you, again, $2,000 versus, $1 billion worth of equipment. Yeah, that was the HIMARS system that they added into that, but it was just cool explosions and stuff like that.
Right.
But just the $2,000 drone, kamikaze drone versus, a $15 million piece of equipment, you can't. It's apples and oranges. You can't even compare the two. So yeah, that's where the money's going. That's how they're fighting the war over in the Ukraine with drone warfare, whether it's on the ground, whether it's in the air, whether it is a drone with a marking device. So when like the ATACMS come in or the HIMARS or whatever, they can just put the bead right on it and it ain't missing. Or the drone's getting the grid coordinates right where that thing is sending it and sending it back to the artillery units and stuff like that. Those are the purposes, as we discussed throughout this whole evening, what drone warfare can do for your side, or the enemy side, or whatever. Now, Russians are doing it, but they're not doing it in the same amount as the Ukrainians are doing it, just because of their war stock and stuff like that. Now, you got to remember something. This is 600 plus miles of border between Russia and the Ukraine. And Ukraine's just trying to get back the land that was taken from them, from back in 2014 and even now. If you want to learn more about drone warfare, again, search for Ukraine war or drone warfare or whatever on YouTube, and you can keep up to date. They post almost every day. The different units are out there. Everybody's got a damn cell phone. And Elon Musk has put the satellites over the Ukraine so they can use it in the way you see it happening on the screen right now. Plus, they're uploading all that video so everybody's, apprised to what's going on in the Ukraine itself. So, that's what we got for you tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you do enjoy it and you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Tell somebody about us. If you want to share this video out or our channel out, we appreciate that also. And we got a lot more coming forward. We're going to start doing a different format instead of this by the number learning thing. We'll bring things like this and other things about the military and stuff like that. So you guys if your loved one has served or your kids are serving or your son-in-law, your daughter-in-law or whatever, if you have any ideas for new videos or live shows that we can do, please email Jason or myself. Our emails are in the description, always in the description. And brother, I hope you're ready for this winter vortex coming in.
Oh, we're as prepared as we're gonna be.
Yeah.
Not anything new for us though. I mean, our benefit is the fact that we were both raised in the north, where winter is it comes every year, right? It's not a big deal. The hard part here in, when we talk to people up north, they're like, it's just wintertime. It happens, right? We get
Yeah.
snow and ice. When you
Here in
live,
Oklahoma, they go into a panic.
yeah, but when you live in an area like we live in, where nothing's flat and nothing is straight, and they don't have the equipment or the ability to manage the roads properly.
Right.
So that's what becomes a danger and why you need to hunker down.
Sure.
And yeah, we're prepped. It's not our first year. It's not even our second year. We've done this for a couple years here and prepared for the last minute. Oh man, what is going to happen? And it is what it is. So far, it's been pretty disappointing of what they said we were supposed to have. Now, come Friday, might be barking another story, but yeah. But I also want to push out that sentiment that Mike had said, guys. We want you to share this out. We want to get more. We want to get more of you involved. Also, coming up on panel with us, giving us your insights. Your version. Mike and I have our version of how our military lifestyles were and experiences and what we did. But we want this to be the sounding post, right? Like, you need to come in and say something to get it off your chest that other veterans are going to understand. Come in and say it. We want you to come say that. We want you to do it. That's why we created the channel. On top of, trying to help veterans, getting that information out about, how to get services, how to get goods, that kind of stuff. And they can go to the MT. Are we at a point? I guess I know we haven't talked about it offline, so I'm going to throw you on the spot on this one right now. The merch for Sergeants Talk TV right now, it's going through the MT Homestead.
Yes.
And I'm going to assume, which is probably for ease of you and Terry, who.
Yes, it is. We already got it established, and we don't have to pay for another merch store or anything like that.
So guys, make sure
Homestead,
you
go to our About page, hit on the merch store, and you can get Sergeant's Talk TV items there. You can get T-shirts and coffee cups, blah, blah, blah. Also, I want to put this out in May 16th, 17th, and 18th of 2025 is the Mid-America U2 Meetup #2. It's going to be at Lake Eufaula State Park on Lake Eufaula itself. That T-shirt is also on our merch store. If you want to buy one of those, proceeds for that one helps pay for everything, our cost, Terry and I's cost, to put on this meetup. So if you want a T-shirt, you can buy it off there. All the Sergeant's Talk TV merch that's on there, all the proceeds we make off that one, which is only like $4 a shirt, goes to the McAllister Veterans Homeless Shelter, is where we send that money over there to them. So if you want to buy something to support that veterans cause, we appreciate that also. We haven't got monetized yet. We've met the 4,000 watch hours. We've met the 1,000 subscribers because of the whole, we don't want to go through like, the New Zealand family thing with their daughter because of addresses and bank accounts and all that stuff. It doesn't separate the two. So we're working on that. It's kind of touch and go. And since I'm retired, I collect Social Security now. It's all got to go, Terry's got to do that part because she can make as much money as she wants. I just can't under my name. So we're working.
Mama.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, hey, I'm glad you guys came here. Remember, tomorrow night, at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time, MT Homestead. Myself and Terry go live tomorrow. On Thursday, Jason and Tara go live at 6 o'clock, I believe, Central Standard Time. And that's all part of
Homestead Hangout.
That's Homestead Hangout on Thursday. And Terry and I would love to have you come over there and check us out. We just dropped our first video since November because I couldn't get out and walk around and do nothing. So Terry wouldn't let me go outside, guys. Then she comes running in here. There's a skunk in the hen house. Ah! It was okay for me to go blindly in the dark with a pew-pew, and she's holding this little flashlight thing, that we take camping with us and stuff like that. But yeah, we made a video about that. Please go there and check that video out also. But guys, we absolutely love doing this. It's good therapy for Jason and myself. We've talked about it many times. And to meet with our brothers and sisters, Gold Star family members, veterans, grandmas and grandpas of veterans, spouses of veterans, or active duty and stuff like that. So please, let's get the word out and let's make this a big family affair so we can get the word out to everybody and just come and have a place to go on Tuesday evenings and just talk military stuff. Anything from you, brother?
No, you said it perfectly, man. Hey,
Gypsy Trails is here.
We got him. He's out there playing with cactuses in the desert.
Okay. Hey, guys, remember, be kind to one another. Help somebody in need, and always think of that. Guys, we love you. God bless you, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
See you guys.
I'm going to get better at this whole computer thing. Terry's over here laughing at me.
Don't hold your breath. Nobody hold your breath.
Yeah.
You'll pass out first.